Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Stroka, and I'm the president of the American Nutrition Association, the ANA. I'm here with Dr. Valencia Porter, Director of Integrative Medicine for the Chopra Center, and a member of the ANA's Professional Advisory Board.
Good evening, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here, and we welcome our audience from around the world.
So together, we at American Nutrition Association and the Chopra Center are very pleased to be hosting Dr. Suhas to discuss Ayurvedic nutrition and his new book, The Hot Belly Diet. Let me take just a moment to tell our audience about the ANA. We're a nonprofit organization which has for 40 years been on a mission to promote optimal health through nutrition and wellness education. We educate the public and professionals in many ways, including hosting world-class nutrition programs, such as this one tonight. We encourage you to visit our website, theana.org, for an abundance of nutrition information and resources. Join the ANA as a member and help us continue to bring these nutrition luminaries to you.
Mike, we would also like the audience to join us at the Chopra Center and Chopra Center University, where they will find a variety of programming as well.
Yes, great. Please sign up for the Chopra Center and ANA newsletters as programs are added throughout the year. And now, we are honored to introduce Dr. Suhas. Dr. Suhas is a world-renowned Ayurvedic physician from a family of traditional Vedic healers in India. He holds a BA in Ayurvedic medicine and completed a 3-year residency as an MD, a doctorate in Ayurvedic internal medicine, at the prestigious Pune University in India. He has received numerous international awards in the Ayurvedic field. In addition to serving as the director of the Ayurvedic Healing and Integrative Wellness Clinic, he is an advisory board leader for Chopra Center University and a frequent guest teacher at the Chopra Center's signature Mind-Body Wellness workshops. He was a featured presenter on the Dr. Oz Show and several other television and radio programs worldwide. Dr. Suhas will begin with an overview of Ayurvedic wellness, and following that has graciously agreed to answer questions from Dr. Porter and myself. Welcome, Dr. Suhas.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Valencia, for this lovely introduction, and most important, inviting me to address the American Nutrition Association. It is a great honor and privilege to present Ayurvedic nutrition to the premier organization responsible for educating American people about food, diet, digestion, and nutrition. And I would like to congratulate all of you for the wonderful work that you have done so far. So, as one more time, it's my great honor to talk about Ayurvedic nutrition. And just a quick reminder that Ayurvedic medicine is one of the most ancient and most comprehensive science of medicine that is known to humanity. And the very basic principles of Ayurvedic medicine that we will be describing some simple foundational principles today, but more importantly, we'll be actually discussing about the premise of Hot Belly Diet, my recent book, and the epidemic of obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and how it relates to the core concept of Ayurvedic nutrition, understanding the very basics of diet, digestion, nutrition from the point of view of Agni, which is the metabolic principle, as well as the concept of Ama, which is the incomplete products of digestion. So we'll be talking more in details about that. But the first and foremost, in Western medicine, we know a great deal more about the causes of disease than we do about the cause of health. So I think it's very important that we need to go back to the same old discussion. And we are seeing some of these trends happening even in modern medicine. About a decade ago, it was all about finding a cure, finding how to address a disease, and we have shifted the focus to positive health, understanding what are the basic tenets of living well and be healthy. I think the same situation we have seen in psychology, where we used to talk about what are the problems that are affecting someone's mind and psyche, and we have turned completely around talking about more positive psychology and optimistic, positive attitude about everything else. So Ayurveda, the word itself means science of life. So we have to look at the greater aspect of our own environment and how it affects us to create health or disease. And I think there's nothing better template than Ayurvedic medicine, which integrates the combination of mind, body, and spirit, taking us to the place of wellness and wholeness, and trying to maintain a kind of a balance between all the three, because there are so many situations that are going on in life where the challenges do create some imbalances, but how quickly we can get back to that. And I think the message of Ayurvedic medicine is a consciousness-based approach to health and well-being. Whether we talk about being self-referral, being mindful about all the choices that we make and what it does to our physical health and well-being. That's exactly the premise of Ayurveda is all about. It is a science of life, and it truly believes that health is a byproduct of enlightenment. So anyone who is mindful and careful about everything, what they do, how they think, how they behave, how they make choices, and being self-referral allows them to maintain their own state of health and well-being. Even though it's a very ancient science, many of these things talk about in the classical Sanskrit language, Ayurveda simply uses a very different terminology to express some of the most advanced ideas of molecular biology and quantum physics. And when we talk about diet especially, our human body is a dynamic field of energy. It is constantly participating in exchange with the larger field of energy that surrounds it. It comprises of the rest of the universe. We simply borrow food, air, and water to create and recreate our body, because this continual exchange of your body is being renewed and replaced every moment of your life. And the most important principle of Ayurveda is that our physiology is very smart and inherently very intelligent. And the many physiological functions guiding the replacement of the cells, molecule, digestive function, elimination, respiration, everything, even at an atomic level, everything depends upon this inherent intelligence that inhabits the human body. So once we believe and understand that consciousness is the organizing essence of the universe and simultaneously transcends and creates the world we perceive, what remains is very simple, that how can we lead our life more mindfully and make the right kind of choices in terms of diet, digestion, and nutrition. Because the new paradigm which is evolving is a paradigm of lifestyle medicine. And Ayurveda is nothing but the true and the original lifestyle medicine. And even now with modern day research, we all know that it's an area of preventive medicine which shows that about 80% of all chronic diseases like heart disease can be prevented and even reversed by simple changes in diet, exercise, and stress management. So if at all, prevention and even therapeutic management is about 80% more effective with the proper diet, exercise, and stress management. What is the exact impact on the body? Because when we really talk about personalized medicine, it's an area of medicine which actually identifies the genetic and metabolic differences between individuals and then prescribe or come up with a drug or a treatment plan or multimodality treatment based upon those differences. So one size fits all was an old school thought. So we need to really identify who we are and how we need to lead our life in accordance with exactly how we turn on certain genes and turn off certain genes. And I think Ayurveda and everything Ayurveda has talked about, the mind-body types, in about personalization of different rituals and management of your own health and well-being from your body type point of view, I think becomes even more relevant in the modern day. Even the science of nutrigenomics studies how food or nutrient can influence the expression of genes in the body. And it's an interesting science where when you talk about different body types and what they eat and how their genes get activated because of the food that they eat, also about emotions and every experience that goes through into their system. So I think this is all very synergistic to this very ancient Ayurvedic concept of consciousness-based living and understanding who you are. Because the difference between health and disease totally lies into your physiological and biochemical transformation in the body, your environment, and the way you live, your lifestyle. About 70 to 80% of all chronic diseases depend upon the way you live. And only 10% is maybe about your genetics. So I think the very pertinent message of science of life is all about lifestyle, is all about reprogramming and recorrecting the way you choose your food, and the way you live your life is very important. The reason why I wrote Hot Belly Diet, because every time I used to see some of the clients in my own practice, I used to see that this is an absolute connection where obesity and pre-diabetic tendency and sluggish digestive fire like metabolic syndrome is the main cause of the onslaught of chronic diseases what they have. And it's very scary. I don't want to go into great details about what are the statistics. About 33% of people in our country are obese. 67% are overweight, and especially in African American and Hispanic American, these rates are significantly higher. 30% of U.S. kids are overweight. And the recent headline says that this is the first time in last 10 years that these rates have come down, and thanks to wonderful work the American Nutrition Association is doing to bring awareness to people how to eat the right kind of food. I think one of the biggest challenges, only 3 in 10 adults get any physical exercise. And I think sedentary habits is worse than obesity and smoking put together. So the diabetes that we talk about, overweight people which are more prone to have stroke, cancers, heart diseases, all of those things. So I think the reason for Hot Belly Diet is to really go back and understand the core Ayurvedic principle that it has talked about for thousands of years, that if you have a good state of Agni, which is your ability to convert, digest, and metabolize food properly, and you don't create something what we call it as ama, which is residual impurities of digestion, and keep the channels and energetic pathways free and open and flowing, then the body is able to feel vibrant, energetic, and healthy. Because it is almost very clear that when you look at someone and you look at their midsection spread, then without even looking at any blood work or any report, you can very safely assume that these people who are having an abdominal adiposity or some specific love handles in the middle of their belly is proneness or tendency towards cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, sleep apnea, inflammatory arthritis, chronic GI diseases, especially intolerance to a variety of different foods, asthma, low back pain, infertility, erectile dysfunctions, all of those things. And one of the most common symptoms I used to feel in my client is that they used to complain was chronic gassy and bloated sensation. And this was all coming from a sluggish digestive fire. And so that's the premise of writing Hot Belly Diet, but more importantly, actually making feel comfortable to understand who they are, because their ideal weight depends upon your predominant somatotype or dosha, what we call it. Because from an Ayurvedic point of view, there are 3 body types or body constitution or prakritis, what we call it. Vata is a combination of air and space. Pitta is a combination of fire and water. And Kapha is a combination of water and earth. And even from a modern perspective, we understand different body types, which are often called as ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. Ectomorph are people who are lean and thin. Mesomorph are the one which are mid-sized, muscular, and the endomorph are the one with bigger bones and bigger structures in their body and a little bit more hefty. So Vata, or the Vata body constitution, is similar to that of ectomorph. Pitta constitution is more similar to that of mesomorph, and Kapha body constitution is more similar to that of endomorph. So instead of just going with a standard BMI or standard measurements, how ideal your weight should be, there should be efforts to be paid attention to who you are, what your body type is, and can you select the diet, lifestyle, and routine based upon your body constitution or your somatotype, because then it becomes rather easy that you are eating the right foods which are absolutely suitable to your body type. Because if you're not following those understanding properly, then it's very likely that you will create some imbalances and challenges in that regard as such. Another important thing which we commonly see is the actual deposition of the fat, where you are accumulating fat, whether you talk about an apple-shaped or a pear-shaped body where you are accumulating weight, anything which is gathering weight as a visceral fat in the body, like an apple shape or pear shape, they are both very dangerous. And so looking at what is going on, we need to go back to the premise of Hot Belly Diet of rekindling their fire so that They are not accumulating this unwanted fat in these areas, which actually dampens the functioning of all the vital organs in the abdomen. And they are equally dangerous. People say that the Android type or the Apple type is more dangerous than the pear type, which is the gynoid type. But if we look closely, they are equally prone for a variety of different chronic diseases. The main difference between Ayurvedic nutrition, East and West, is based upon why we eat. The conventional nutrition, we always talk about your personal preference, habit, body image, emotions. What are the calories you're consuming? How do you count the calories from different food groups? How much proteins, how much fat, how much carbohydrates? What is the calorific value of everything? And the balancing food ingredients in terms of vitamins and minerals. What are the food groups you are eating? And you are what you are eating. But the main difference is, from an Ayurvedic point of view, that we need to pay attention to what is the quality of prana or the life force in the food that we are eating, because we need to use the life force in the food to nourish the quality of life in the physiology. We pay attention to the basic elements in the food, what the food is actually made up of, and what are the qualities in the food. If you eat heavy, you become heavy. If you eat light, you become light. If you eat something hot and sharp, you will become hot and sharp. Because understanding those qualities is the very basis of Ayurvedic nutrition. And more importantly, how the body processes what we eat. Because it is not only important what we eat, but when, where, how much, and why in the world are we eating. It should be based upon your individual constitution, balancing diet depending upon your prakriti and what is suitable to your prakriti. Most importantly, depending upon the tastes of the food. Ayurveda is one of the only science which actually describes about these 6 different tastes: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. So using this complexity of taste in the food, and especially when the food is made up by the nature itself, it actually creates that complexity in the taste. And as the conventional nutrition, we talk about you are what you eat. From an Ayurvedic point of view, you are what you digest. That is, I think, one of the main and the most important difference. And there's a very interesting quality that I would like to highlight here, is from an Ayurvedic point of view, we define diet as you take in from any field of perception, from any mode of intellect, that is diet. So what it simply means is that it's not only the food what is in your plate. It's not what you eat. It's what you see, what you touch, what you smell, what you hear, what you sense, what you ingest. Everything becomes food, because your body is constantly created by these experiences that you are exposed to. And when we look at our plate, it's only 1/5 of your diet. And from a quantum mechanical field, even from a modern psychological field, that we are understanding it, that all the biochemical changes and the neurochemical changes that happen in the body because of how we perceive things and how we sense things does affect the way our body behaves. We talk about molecules of emotions. We talk about the art of metabolizing experiences. And I think that's exactly what Ayurvedic nutrition is, which makes it very unique, because we pay a lot of attention to only good food, healthy, organic food, but if the experiences, the way our sensory perceptions are assimilating or digesting is toxic and unhealthy and unhappy and stressful, then it will actually disrupt the physiological functioning. So everything that we consume, air, water, food, emotions, information through the senses, is an important aspect of diet. So it's a very broad spectrum definition of diet, because if you eat well, it will give you strength, energy, clarity of mind, luster of skin, immunity, sharpness of sense organs depending upon what we eat. Simply, it reverses the aging process and makes you light, bright, active, and energetic. Because the unique Ayurvedic concept is that food has a great impact on the mind you create. And it is such unique and such a novel explanation that if you eat food which is dead, putrid, leftover, frozen, canned, which does not have any force of life in there, it will make your mind very dull. But if you eat foods which are fresh, vibrant, it will make your mind very, very lively, active, bright, and more positive to keep on doing things which are good for you and which are right for you. We talk a lot about food addictions nowadays. So if you're eating bad, toxic food, your mind becomes weak, and that's why you're addicted to bad foods. So if we reprogram ourselves and we start eating the right kind of food, we slowly shift the resilience of our mind, and we are able to discipline and cultivate a degree of willpower to keep on doing the right things, eating the right things, and creating a better body because of that food, digestion, and nutrition, what is happening. Another important Ayurvedic concept of nutrition is eating mindfully. It's very important that you pay attention to when you eat, how you eat, where you eat, and why you eat. The new research, especially in the healthcare and the weight loss, came out. It talked about that eat late to gain some weight, sleep late to gain some weight. And these are all these concepts. If at all you are consuming foods after 3 o'clock, maybe the same amount of calories you take in the morning or evening has a greater impact on the way you will gain and retain weight. So number one is you have to eat according to your dosha type. Eating a rainbow-colored diet, eating lots of vibrant, colorful food, freshly prepared food. You should be eating superfoods, which should include all the 6 tastes in there. The quality of the food should be good, and the food will ultimately become your body and mind. There are subtle variations that we often do in terms of balancing Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, because even all these 3 body constitutions will gain weight in their own way, but if they select the right kind of food, then they will prevent the onslaught of chronic diseases that they are more likely to have. So for a Vata person, we actually give them more quality, nourishing foods, the right kind of healthy fats, foods which are a little bit unctuous or warming, mostly cooked foods. The taste which are good for Vata people is sweet and salty, and it creates an overall feeling of grounding where they don't feel light and flighty. Pitta people, who are a little bit hot and sharp and a bit angry and irritable, should favor for cooling food. So the whole anti-inflammatory diet is more suitable to Pitta people. Eating more greens, slightly oily food, less spicy, more juicy, more crunchy, having taste which is more bitter and astringent in their diet, and slightly heavier food because they do have a sharp digestive fire and they can handle foods. So if Pitta people eat impure food, their toxicity levels goes very high. They need to be eating more pure foods. Kapha people, on the other hand, these are the people who are very sensitive to carbohydrates. They are the ones who should be actually eating a low-carb kind of a diet, which should be mostly cleansing, less grains, eating foods which are dry, hot, and spicy. Pungent and bitter taste are the ones that they should be eating more, and they should be eating foods which are more light in nature. So if at all we really understand based upon our body type, we can actually simplify the clutter and prevent the chronic diseases that each one of them can create. And once you start balancing, your body and mind feel very, very light and active and energetic. But even though we are talking about balancing body types, we should be favoring food which are superfoods, which are made in nature, made by nature. They should be power-packed with nutrients, fiber, antioxidant, very high in ORAC value, greater bioavailability. They should be recyclable. The body should know exactly how to get rid of some of those things. Intelligent foods, organic, non-GMO, seasonal variation for seasonal needs, eating foods which are in season. Foods, when they are power-packed, they are abundant in vitamins, minerals, bioflavonoids, fiber, protein, and fat, because these foods are lively, vibrant, prana, filled with mana or chi, as we would like to call it. So if you're eating the right food suitable to your body type, I think that's one of the most important concepts. When I wrote this book, Hot Belly Diet, one of the things which I came up with a very simple 4 or 5 step plan. The first part was I encourage people to avoid eating in between the meals, to exercise intermittent fasting where you can have your breakfast, you can have your lunch, and you can have your dinner, but no snacking in between the meals. You should be drinking good quality waters in between those things. I like to call them as holy waters versus unholy waters. So if you're drinking plain neutral pH water, not ice water, but regular temperature water, if you're drinking hot water with a slice of lemon and ginger, if you're drinking some herbal teas, these are all holy waters. Unholy waters are sugary drinks and sodas and caffeinated beverages, and even though these are water, but they will create more dehydration and more cellular confusion. So you need to select holy waters over the unholy waters, especially sipping warm water throughout the day is one of the best things that you can do on this program. Making lunch as the main meal of the day, because we want to synchronize ourselves with the rhythms of nature. When the sun is waking up in the morning, it's very tender sunlight, so the breakfast should be lighter and easier to digest. When sun is prominent in the middle of the sky, lunch has to be the main meal of the day, and when it's setting in the evening, the sunlight is not so strong and weak, and it's fading away, so your dinner again has to be lighter and well before 6 o'clock in the evening. So we want to focus on getting rid of Ama, and I'm going to discuss a little bit more about what exactly Ama and Agni is all about. But the key premise of this book is all about mindfulness and enjoying a state of hunger in between the meals, paying attention to exercise, improving fire, increasing circulation, cultivating a positive mindset, and cultivating an art of metabolizing experience, so that you are looking around, because fasting in all ancient cultures, they have used one of the best way to cultivate a spiritual discipline. And I think this is also one of the things which I wanted to bring it out, because the ability to transform, Agni is the Sanskrit word which simply means digestive fire, but it also means your ability to transform. It simply means radiance. The English word ignite came from the root Sanskrit word Agni. Radiance, luster, shine, brightness. It's also the light of knowledge which dispels ignorance. So the bad eating habits and certain things which are our own cobwebs that are blocking us from doing the right kind of things. So we are slowly baking, cooking, transforming ourselves. So your ability to digest and metabolize experience and cultivating a degree of sensory clarity so that you can stick to good things is governed by Agni. From an Ayurvedic point of view, we talk about Tejas, Prana, and Ojas. Tejas is the quality of the fire, Prana is the flow of energy in the body, and Ojas is the ultimate essence of the goodness of the food, which creates a wonderful radiance, luster, and immunity. So they all go hand in hand together. Eating less, eating right, and ultimately that makes you bright. So the concept of a strong Agni leads to good Ojas, which is subtle nourishment, which makes you really feel healthy and happy. And when your throatuses are clogged and you create a sluggish digestive fire and you create a toxic residue of Ama, then everything gets clogged and blocked, and that's what leads to more imbalances and feeling dull, heavy, groggy, yucky, and almost a feeling of low-grade depression. And that's where the challenge is. You feel this way, that's why you crave for bad foods, and you keep on eating bad food, that's why you keep on feeling this way. So one of the most important concepts that I discussed in the book was the ancient Ayurvedic correlation of Pranavata with Apanavata connection. So from a modern medicine point of view, we have understood the enteric nervous system, because there's an interconnecting network of nerve fibers and neurochemicals in your GI tract that is in continuous communication with the brain, because your gut and your brain are in continuous communication. About 80% of the neurotransmitters, like body's serotonin, is made in the gut. There's a two-way communication. The brain stimulation changes the gut flora, and dysbiosis in the gut causes mood or behavioral changes via the ENS and CNS connection. And we also know that immune system is like a circulating nervous system. And so the correlation between the nervous system, enteric nervous system, as well as the immune system is really identified in the gut itself. So having a healthy gut is very important. So the whole new discussion of microbiome is exactly what Ayurveda has been talking about, creating a healthy gut, creating a healthy functioning digestive fire so that this Agni gets rid of this tissue sludge. Because what Ama is one of the key elements in chronic diseases. It's a kind of an endogenous toxin that results from imbalanced and incomplete digestion. It's almost like remnants of incompletely digested food that makes you feel gassy, bloated, fermented. And it's initially formed in the digestive tract. Later, it starts disseminating and percolating in the tissues. It gets localized in specific tissues where aggravated doshas disrupt the tissue function. And it actually leads to chronic inflammation at a cellular level. So the cell starts looking and behaving abnormally, and which is the first step towards the chronic diseases. We call it as ama visha, which is the toxicity generated by ama, and it starts creating immediate tissue reactions and damages. It may create hypersensitivity, allergic responses, autoimmune disorders, and it's also correlated with free radicals and many other toxic metabolites at a cellular level. So ama is not an ancient, outdated Ayurvedic concept, but when you start looking at some of these diseases that we get, especially the chronic diseases in the digestive system, we are actually seeing it very carefully that what's going on. So when people, I often see that they are complaining about bad breath or coated tongue, feeling dull or sluggish appetite, irritable elimination, generalized pain, fatigue, depression, susceptibility to infection, and not able to really manifest the kind of life they want for themselves. These are all signs of ama, which is clogging and blocking their channels. So once you get rid of this ama and rekindle the fire, the person really starts feeling healthy, vibrant at every area in their life. One of the tagline of Hot Belly Diet is rekindle your fire, rekindle your life. And so it doesn't really remain confined to your digestive health. It is everything that you attract in your life depends upon how good you feel in your belly. Because if you feel good in your belly, you will feel rested upon awakening. Your skin will have a healthy glow. Your tongue is clean, pink, and clear. Your body feels light regardless of your weight. You feel centered throughout the day. Your digestion is strong without feeling bloated and gassy. You feel energized and enthusiastic. Your mind is clear. Your body has a pleasant smell. You rarely get sick. And every experience that you attract in life is positive and vibrant. So this is all the signs of a good ojas when you don't have ama. So we are trying to cultivate a feeling that you are reigniting your digestive fire, you are igniting and modulating your metabolic function so that the tissue sludge and ama is evaporated, and then you create something what we call it as ojas. So one of the things that we talked about, and I have thousands of people who have followed this Hot Belly Diet program, and not only they have lost weight, but they're feeling wonderful in so many areas. They have a natural desire to start eating right foods. They start liking these hot liquids and herbal teas. They are slowing down the pace of life. They are sitting down to eat. They are enjoying fasting in between the meals, and they are able to stabilize the reactive hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia, which happens because they were training their blood sugar to behave this way. The sensation of hunger is very essential to weight loss and overall health. And new science is showing us that intermittent fasting can actually help you live longer and healthier life. So if you eat a decent breakfast, a good lunch, and a light dinner, there's no need to eat anything in between. You can drink some plain water, and if you ever go for a snack, go for something which is a God-made food, like a piece of fruit or something. Making lunch the most important meal is very important, because one of the common things which I started noticing is that people hardly eat good breakfast. They eat lunch on the run, and they come back home later in the evening and they slump and eat a lot. And after eating, they go to sleep for 7, 8, 9 hours, and the food remains into their system without being digested. When you sleep, your heart rate, pulse rate, respiratory rate, everything slows down, and the food just stays there without being digested properly. So this digestive sludge that they wake up with, which is a poorly digested food, creates this weight loss, provokes hormonal imbalances, and ultimately triggers inflammation, which is the root cause of virtually all diseases. So drinking the herbal teas, which are made with spices and the right kind of water, and it's good for your heart, good for your brain. Doing some simple cleanses, understanding that what you do in terms of meditation, yoga, exercise, doing regular sweating exercise, which is also good, positive affirmations, self-referral activities, they're all linked to what you eat and what you become. And I introduced some simple Ayurvedic herbs to Hot Belly Diet program, which is some simple herbs like Trikatu and Triphala, a special tea that we designed called as weight loss tea. And the cornerstone of this program was an Ayurvedic super dish, which is called as khichdi. And khichdi is a very simple one-pot meal which is very easily digestible. It's made with some complex carbohydrates with vegetables, and so it's very delicious. So you can have quinoa khichdi or mung bean and rice khichdi, and adding the right kind of spices, doing a detox where you do a castor oil purge. And these are all some simple basics of the hot belly diet program. And many of these foods and things are easily available on the hot belly diet website itself. And another important thing, which I go back to this very wonderful Ayurvedic wisdom, that whatever we talk about from a Eastern or the Western nutritional point of view, we have to eat right and eat light. Eating the foods which are fresh, alive, vibrant, mostly fruits, vegetables, complex grains, good quality nuts and seeds, sprouts, clean water, eating in small quantities, chewing well, drinking enough water, doing some breathing exercise is one of the best way to modulate your metabolic function. Meditate is very important. 30 minutes of brisk physical exercise, rotating the physical activity that you will do, staying away from something which is simply not good for you. Compulsive habits like alcohol, drugs, tobacco, you should simply stay away from that. Learning how to observe yourself in a detached manner, doing something good daily, sweet words, deeds, positive affirmation, treating your body like temple. Our full-time job is feeding our body with excellent food and wonderful experiences. So treating your body like a temple, not like trash. Seasonal cleanses, and that's a unique Ayurvedic concept, whether you talk about spring or fall cleanses, whether you talk about panchakarma, detoxification. All of these Ayurvedic ancient concepts are becoming mainstream now. So doing a seasonal cleanse, consciously slowing down the pace of life, frequent vacations, trying to learn something new and stay happy, and add a dimension of fun and laughter and a good quality rest to your life. And once we cultivate a state of happiness, because we used to say earlier that healthy people are happy, but we have learned that painfully enough that people who are happy are more likely to be healthy. So cultivating a state of happiness is just a state of mind. So all of these things I actually talk a lot about in some of the upcoming courses and classes that I will be teaching. I have a series of webinar on hot belly diet which is starting in March, and I would encourage and invite everyone who wants to learn a little bit more about this. But I think this has been a very interesting journey for me as well, because this is something which I learned and studied back in India with my family lineage, with my all learning with my teachers, and comparing that with a classical Western lifestyle and the kind of pace of life we have created, how to bring in this ancient wisdom to find solutions for the modern day lifestyle. And it has enriched me a lot, it has taught me a lot, and once again, I thank American Nutrition Association for having me here today to come and talk and discuss the hot belly diet and the simple principles of Ayurvedic nutrition to all of you. And thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Valencia.
Thank you, Dr. Suhas. Wow, you're just a wealth of information. And thanks for such an informative and engaging presentation, and for taking a few questions from Mike and myself. So you talked about the concepts of Agni, our digestive fire, and Ama, the toxicity that accumulates in our body. Can you please tell our audience how our diet really impacts the creation of Ama and what they might be able to do? What would be some of your top tips to help them clean and cleanse out this toxicity from their body?
It's a great question, because eating food is very important. We all want to eat the right kind of food, but eating light and eating right and eating it at the right time. So as I said earlier, that you have to first of all go with the clean foods. That's number one. And making sure that you are hungry enough to eat those foods so that you can digest and metabolize those foods properly. So some of the simple tips that I often share: not to have Ama, apart from eating clean foods, again, eating less. That's the most important thing. You need to leave the table feeling that you can eat a little bit more. And that gentle degree of lightness actually cultivates and keep the fire burning. So try to avoid eating in between the meals. Sipping warm liquids, that's also very important. Always sit down to eat, and chew well, because chewing actually reduces the need to eat more. And avoid any passive entertainment while you are eating. Making lunch the most important meal of the day. Adding the right kind of spices, because spices are real intelligent herbs which kindle the fire in the food itself. They improve the enzymatic and the digestive pathways for us to extract the information from the food easily. You should not make it overly spicy and hot, but the right kind of spices would actually improve the metabolic function. Again, eating the foods which are clean and pure is very important. Respecting the 24-hour solar day, blessing your food, closing your eyes before you start eating, and making sure that you are able to take a short walk after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Even if it's for about 5 minutes, keeping the things moving will actually help you get rid of this ama more easily. And there are more greater techniques that you can do in terms of extended amount of fasting, having the right kind of spices, intelligent supplements like Trikatu is an excellent supplement for reducing ama as such, and more importantly, doing seasonal cleanses prevent the buildup of ama in your system.
Great. Wonderful. I have to say my clients are always amazed at the impacts of just sipping warm or hot water throughout the day. So
yes, I agree.
These are fantastic tips.
So Dr. Suhas, so dosha is a pretty new concept for a lot of Westerners, obviously, but body type is not, and so I found it very interesting that you made the comparison between dosha and body type. And I think that seems maybe very intuitive to Westerners that different body types should eat differently, and yet you don't see that type of information out there very commonly in the field of nutrition as it relates to how diet should be varied according to body type. So can you sort of follow up on that intuition that we all may have? Why is it that a different body type requires a different type of food, and how important is it that we adhere to that?
Well, I think it's very important to actually understand who we are and the parents that we were born of, because they are the one who actually give us the body type. But more importantly, that there's a different functioning, there's different ability to actually behave differently. Like we see Vata people who are a little bit tall and thin and lightweight and anxious, have dry skin, a little bit weak and poor appetite, light sleeper, constipated. Irregular in their digestive function, elimination function, everything like that. They are a little bit creative, bony, and wavering. So these kind of people, they can't eat a whole lot of food at once. So they need to learn that they have to graze in small amount of food. They have to eat clean and pure food. They have to eat food which is warm and cooked. That is very important, more so than following any diet. If these people gain even a little bit of weight, that really makes them feel very, very heavy and unhappy, because they will get challenges because of even a few pounds extra more strongly. Pitta people who are medium built, reddish, hot, freckles, oily, sharp appetite, they are having a very sharp appetite. So I call them hangry, hungry and angry at the same time. And medium energy, they are flushed and intense. So they can eat a lot and they can eat good and bad foods at the same time. So they have to be very careful of eating pure foods. They should be favoring more bitter and astringent taste, because they are very prone for inflammation. Very quickly, they will create this heat and inflammatory changes, whether you talk about endothelial lining in the blood vessels, whether you talk about joint changes and inflammation in the joints. Everywhere, they'll be inflamed very easily. They'll be flushed internally also. So they should be eating cleaner foods, and they should be eating more green and bitter and astringent food. And again, once you understand who you are and you start favoring those foods, you will start noticing that these kind of foods actually make you feel healthier. They'll cool you down, and that's the concept. But many of these things actually come in different fads in this country. We go about alkaline foods, and we talk about the pH of the food. We suddenly go to a paleo diet, but they're all, some diets work for some people, some diets don't work for some people, and that's the reason why it doesn't work for those people. Like kapha people who are big, tall, heavy, they have tendency for easy weight gain, and they have a sluggish, dull metabolic function. These are the people who are very sensitive to carbohydrates. So if you take away the grains and the carbs from these diets, they will function very well. But if you take all the carbs from a Vata person or Pitta people, they'll get cranky and unhappy very easily. So you need to select the right kind of food, understanding who you are, and balancing those things. I think the key here is having people to really understand that by eating what kind of foods, how does it make them feel, and trying to staying away from foods which make them feel unhappy and unhealthy, and sticking to foods that make them really happy, healthy, and vibrant. And there's another component that the taste in the food also have an impact on your mind and emotional makeup. And that's also a very unique Ayurvedic concept. If you're eating a lot of sweet foods, it'll make you possessive and you will be attached to many things. If you're eating too many sour foods, it'll create more envy, jealousy, anger. If you're eating too much of salty food, it'll create too much of ambition and greed, over-ambition. If you eat a lot of pungent, it'll make you angry and violent and vindicative and hatred kind of a person. Astringency will create insecurity and fear. Bitter taste excessively will create grief and sorrow. So all of these food that you eat, they have a mental connotations and component to it. And we are painfully realizing why sugar is making people addictive worse than heroin or anything else, why certain foods are changing people's mentality. And I think it's high time we go back to some of this Ayurvedic wisdom to really decode ourselves, to understand our body type and start living in accordance with some of those tastes and some of those foods. And I think that will make it more easily and that will make it more sense that we should be creating a diet more specific to our needs, to our body type.
Well, that's fascinating, and it really resonates with me because at American Nutrition Association, we don't have any particular single ideology or philosophy about nutrition and diet. Our purpose is to inform professionals and the public about a wide variety of information about nutrition and diet, and ultimately let the professionals and the public decide for themselves and just provide them excellent scientific information. But one thread that is woven throughout all of the work we do is the belief in biochemical individuality, which is that each individual person does have their own particular needs, and thus there's a different, nutrient intake and the like that is optimal for every single individual out there. So what you're saying, it really resonates with me when you talk about the different doshas and the body types. It's really completely aligned with the philosophy of American Nutrition Association. So thank you very much for that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Dr. Suhas, I wanted to also ask you, with your clients, you take in so much information, and I know you're very much aware of many of the other diet approaches and the current science that's coming up. But what would be some of the main differences in your Ayurvedic approach to nutrition versus a conventional nutritional consultation? What would a client expect if they came to see you?
Well, that's an excellent question because very commonly I see people who are sometimes confused with how much protein they should be eating or how much certain food categories that they want to survive or to sustain. And I think it takes a little bit of effort for them to look at everything what they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and ask the questions that how do they feel after eating certain foods. So when we reintroduce certain foods into their diet and give them some Ayurvedic tips to add in terms of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we actually encourage them to ask and tap into the impact of this food onto their diet, where they are sitting down to it, they are chewing their food, they are mindfully selecting their food, they are going out and choosing the right kind of food. But more importantly, the whole discussion goes towards where do they eat, how do they eat, where does the food exactly come into their plate, and where the food is exactly coming from. So once we start connecting those dots, they start really understanding that they are eating 4 times a week, even healthier places and better restaurants, but it's outside. They end up in eating a little bit more than what they want. They end up in eating at a wrong time when they should be eating at that time itself. And so many of these dietary things actually depends more so than what they are eating in about their whole ritual of eating together at that time. More importantly, their awareness to buying the right kind of foods, preparing their own meals, and engaging themselves to actually do some simple meals and recipes and cooking as well. Because when we gave them a diet of khichdi, it took some creativity for them to start preparing those food. So in simple, I actually tell them that you are a pitta type of a person, and for you to eat something very strong Mexican food 3 times a week is something which is creating this inflammation, which is making you so unhappy, which is creating some of these challenges which you have currently in your physical health. So when we start cleaning them, the purpose is not only giving them a sheet to help them understand that this is what you need to follow, but helping them understand by doing this how good you feel, and slowly changing their mindset to keep on doing things which are good for them. Because the challenge, what I feel commonly in my practice is, we use this Sanskrit term, one is called as prayas, which is liked by them and their tongue and their senses, and the other is shreyas, which is really good for them and their body feels good on those things. How they can move from what their tongue and what their senses like to something what is good for them, and slowly start liking foods which are good for them. So you start liking your kale, you start liking your bitter vegetables, you start liking eating light in the evening. So some of those things is a work in progress. So it becomes like a team player. So you give them the information, you encourage them and motivate them to add these changes, and whether it's themselves, their spouses, their children, all of them, it becomes a collective team. And I have hundreds of clients of that kind. They feel absolutely synergized and happy as if they have learned a new way of eating, and they have started shopping better. They are starting selecting the foods which is more suitable. And even though there are different body types within a household, they all slowly start understanding which are the right kind of foods for them to eat more often.
Great. So it's not just what you're giving them, that it's a diet off the shelf, but really cultivating their self-awareness to identify what is good for them.
That's correct. And whatever I'm doing with hot belly diet is almost like an aam pachana diet. It's for the 30 days where you get rid of the tissue sludge and you rekindle the fire. And once the rekindling of the fire is happening, the ama is gone, then you go back to their dosha-specific eating food. So this is what you should be eating more, this is what you should be eating less.
Great. Beautiful.
Excellent. Well, we've got time for one last brief question. And so for those in our audience who like to boil it down to, a core principle that they can take away, what's the single most important factor, Dr. Suhas, for our audience members to consider in trying to improve their health through Ayurvedic principles?
Well, I think the most important thing, Mike, is being mindful, being aware. Because our full-time job is to take care of our body. Everything else falls around it. So if we are nourishing our body with clean, pure food and experiences, and we are mindful of what we are eating and how we are eating and when we are eating, that makes the biggest difference. That is the single biggest motivating factor. And I have seen those people who meditate regularly actually are much more in tune with their body and their choices that they make. There was an interesting study came out not long ago where they compared people who went to gym 7 days a week and did 30-40 minutes of exercise compared with people who went and did yoga only twice a week. So those people who did yoga only twice a week actually shopped in the right place, went to bed at a proper time, ate the right kind of food. And those people who did like a chore is to be done and ran on the treadmill and did some exercise probably were still disconnected from their body. So I think reestablishing connection with your own inner self, self-referral, mindful, being aware of who you are and how you are going to reshape your body to feel at its optimum, vibrant, energetic level, I think that is the key. And that applies to every kind of diet, for every kind of belief system that you want to go with. Ultimately, we are human beings, and we need to tap into our own divine nature to create this visualization, to create this biofeedback, to create this meditative experiences of cultivating appreciation and gratefulness, and creating some degree of that. We have the food to nourish ourselves. We are living well to eat the right kind of food, and more importantly, once we are into that meditative space of well-being, then everything else in life starts falling into the right kind of places. So the total experience of life depends upon how mindful, how self-referral, and how aware you are with your own self.
Beautifully said. Unfortunately, our time is up, but this has been such an enlightening evening. And on behalf of Dr. Porter and myself and our entire audience around the world, thank you so much, Dr. Suhas, for generously sharing your expertise and your time and your wisdom. I encourage our audience to purchase Dr. Suhas's book at thehotbellydiet.com, Amazon.com, or other retailers. Thank you, Dr. Porter, for joining us, and we look forward to future joint American Nutrition Association and Chopra Center events. So good night to everyone in our audience, and best of health to you all.